Hello and welcome to another great edition of 10 Seconds, the XC Off-Road Cast. I'm Rodney Tomlin. Today our guest is Mackenzie Tricker from the WXC in the GNCC racing ranks, and of course got a lot of great things to talk about with her, but also want to say thanks to a few folks that help make things possible, including our friends at DP Brakes. What's Stopping You? Of course, Larry Mills, a great supporter of Quad Radio, and now, of course, the XC Off-Road Cast. I want to say thanks to those folks for that. Also, Phoenix Racing Honda team, the off-road team there. Of course, they've got motorcycles and ATVs racing now and in motocross, so good to have them on board with us. I want to say thanks to Teely Energy Racing, Todd, and all the folks over there that are doing such a wonderful job in keeping racing going over there, and from that aspect, they do both ATV and motorcycle racing, so I want to say thanks to those guys. And Ladon Racing, Jeremy Ladon and all the folks over there, supporting both Quad Radio and here on the XE Off-Road Cast. And let's see, is there anybody else? There's a whole lot of folks that we do want to say thanks to, including you, my friends, for joining in with us. And we have this opportunity to visit with this wonderful lady here during the quarantine files. Of course, I'm one place, she's another in the world. And of course, Mackenzie, it's good to see you out, and glad to have you. I shouldn't say out, but good to see you in, I guess, under these circumstances. First and foremost, welcome to quarantine. What's that like for you?
It's different. I would never have ever thought we would be doing this, but kind of is what it is. Just kind of taking every day as it comes, like everybody else right now, and just trying to stay healthy.
You know, that seems to be the topic on everybody's mind right now, is this particular, this pandemic, the COVID-19. I mean, it's a scary situation. I know we were talking about it as we were getting ready, and I know you being from Australia and stuff, you were talking about how they've gone to some extreme measures over there that people are starting to abide by and starting to subside a little bit over there. And maybe we can take a page out of that book there here in the United States too, I think.
Yeah, obviously I'm from Australia, so I follow pretty closely on what they're doing, and I've been talking to my mom and my dad and my family every day, and just keeping track of what they're doing, and they're like doing some really serious things, and I think it's helping. And I mean, it makes me a little mad. That's just like kind of what some of the states and some things America's not doing. As I've seen, like New Zealand and Australia have the measures they're taking, and like the it's going down, and America just keeps increasing. So I don't know how long we're going to be in this quarantine, just because of I don't know. I don't think the rules are as strict as they should be right now.
I have to tend to agree with you. I mean, I live here, and and I unfortunately bend the rules too just a little bit, like I think everybody is, because we feel that luxury, because there's not really any reason to not have to. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, we haven't reached that. But, as Americans, I mean, it's kind of hard to think, oh, we don't want martial law. But come on, people. I mean, if we have to be chastised and we have to be given rules to follow because we won't do it voluntarily and do the right thing, I think that I think that the government should step up a little bit, and maybe step in for a little bit, because that's just personal opinion. I mean, I also like the idea that we get to use this time to get a little closer with ourselves, and talking, well, me in particular, my family, I get to spend more. I normally don't get this time with my family. My kids home from school, my youngest is home from school. I get to spend a lot of time with my new grandson, my daughter, and everybody. It's actually kind of neat to be able to reconnect in that aspect of it. Maybe not so much for you, because your family's way up, halfway across the world, I guess.
Right. Yeah. From that side of you, I'd like to go home. I've looked at trying to go home, but with some of the rules that Australia's in place, like if I fly home right now, they're gonna put me in a hotel for 2 weeks and not be able to leave. And I think like one of the last few days in March, if any Australian citizen flew home, they pretty much just get like locked up in a hotel, and they're like, I've been seeing some stuff on Facebook, and it's like pretty strict, like police officers like patrolling. And I think because like 80 to 90% of the cases have been coming from overseas. So if you've traveled and you might not have any symptoms, they're trying to self-quarantine people. And then also it's like changing day to day with the flights. I mean, I could go there and do that 2 weeks quarantine, and then Australia might make a rule of like you can't. There's no international flights for a couple of months, and then if everything's gets better here, we start racing. I would be in a pretty crap situation, So right now, just kind of staying here, and I mean, I wish I was closer to my family at this time, but kind of is what it is. There's some people out there that are in a lot worse situation, so kind of just taking it in.
You're right, yeah, and you're right. There are a lot worse situations. I mean, we were talking about how rough it is for us. I know I mentioned to you, I said, this got to be a tough time for you financially because, I mean, not racing, it's hard to make money. You're not making money right now, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, we're also not spending as much money. You can't really go out to eat. Well, you can't go out to eat. You can get takeaway, which we haven't really been doing. You can't go and do anything fun, so you can't spend any money like that. So pretty much all we're spending money on is going to the grocery store and fuel, like to go riding.
And lots of toilet paper.
Yeah, lots of toilet paper, like everybody else in America and Australia. So, yeah, like honestly, I'm not making money right now, and I'm not spending much. So it's kind of like I might be making a lot of money when we're going racing, but I'm also spending a lot more money because we're on the road, or we might need different stuff. But so I mean, yeah, it sucks, but like I said, it could be way worse.
What are you doing to keep yourself occupied?
Riding and training. I've honestly not been riding my dirt bike too much. A little bit in the back of my mind is like, obviously the hospitals are needed for the people right now that have coronavirus or something worse, so you don't really want to end up there. And that idea kind of came to mind. I've been listening to some like Alden Baker and Seth Rarick. I heard them both talk, and they both like said that. I'm like, you know what? That really never crossed my mind, and I know a lot of people probably haven't thought about that if you were to get hurt right now. So I've been riding a little bit. Obviously, I don't want to just stop riding altogether, but I've been doing a lot of cycling and mountain biking, and then gym back home that I was training with when I was home in Australia, they've switched all their stuff to online. So I've been jumping in on their gym workouts and been challenging some of my friends in South Carolina and my boyfriend Dylan to rowing every morning and just I don't know, staying busy, watching Netflix, watching Dylan play Xbox a lot. So
have you watched Tiger King yet?
No, I haven't. I've been seeing all this stuff and I haven't yet. But
so you don't know how big of a pain in the butt that Carol Baskin chick is, then, do you?
I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing about it. I've been seeing. I'm like, wait, what is this? So I'm probably gonna have to watch it.
You gotta watch that one. That's a good one. I'm getting into the English game also, but anyway, yeah, Netflix. When you said that brought me to that. So I mean, that's the kind. Yeah, those are the kind of things I guess that are keeping a lot of people busy. I mean, we're surfing the internet. I know Caleb Russell's got some pretty cool vlogs that he's got going on. I love the behind the scenes stuff that he's got going on, and if you search YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, you're going to find, I think, plenty of stuff to keep yourself entertained on a racing standpoint. You bring up a pretty good point though about the getting injured, the fear of getting injured. I mean, it's not something that, you don't really, you think about it, it's in the back of your mind and you don't think a whole lot about it because I'll just go to the hospital and, we'll get it fixed or whatever. But yeah, you bring up a very good point. I mean, it's kind of funny how it does change everything. I mean, we try not to let it, but then all of a sudden, that's the last thing I want to do is go to an emergency room,
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, it never really crossed my mind until I listened to, I think it was a podcast or read something on Racer X. And I was like, you know what? That's like so true. And I mean, it's the last place you want to be right now. Or, there's some people out there that need those services more right now. And obviously, I'm not going to say you plan on getting hurt, but you doing something that maybe is not necessary right now, when I have been riding, I've just been not putting myself at as much risk, and I think that's also going to be kind of a key factor when they go back to racing. I don't think it's ever happened that you go to a race and one person doesn't go to the hospital. Like it's not, people don't plan on doing that, but it just kind of happens. Like,
Right.
I wish we could all go racing and no one gets hurt or nothing bad happens, but I think that's also a thing. Like, even if we're social distancing, you got more chance of getting hurt at a race because everybody's obviously hanging it out and putting everything, down to go, like, to win. So there's more risk. I think that's also another reason of maybe they could maybe slow the racing coming back, as well as, like, maybe if hospitals are filled with people with coronavirus, that's a big thing, is we need people there, like medics and stuff, or we need hospitals available. Like, I've seen races in the past, like, get shut down because they've had so many people go to the hospitals and the local hospital can't take any more people if they do get hurt. So races have been stopped. So I don't like to think like that, but I mean, it's kind of, you got to sometimes have that thought. Obviously, you don't want to think you can maybe get hurt, but it's like a pretty good possibility sometimes riding a dirt bike,
Right, yeah, and it seems like Murphy's Law, when the worst circumstances, things always seem to pop up,
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, with that in your mind, I mean, it has changed things a little bit. I mean, but you're keeping the physical aspect of it, so that's a good thing, and I'm sure there's still a lot of mental training going on. I mean, and in mental training, I mean, I know that the last thing you want to do, especially with the way things are going right now, through the first 3 rounds of racing here in GNCC, man, I'm telling you, wow, the WXC class, wow, you girls have really lit it up. I mean, between Becca, you, and Taylor, and I mean, there's other girls out there that are really rising to the occasion right now. That Rachel, she's been doing an amazing job as well. I mean, I'm blown away at just the competition. I mean, I've always knew there's always been, but the racing this year is, to me, is it as good or better than it ever has been? I mean, have you ever seen this level of racing with this many girls at one time?
No, I don't think so. And it's great for the sport. I hope it stays continuous, especially if we kind of go into financial, I don't know what crisis after, coronavirus, or the economy starts to go down. I hope it stays, I mean, racing right now for WXC is like at an all-time high. I don't think we've ever had this many girls on the line for any women's class, let alone the WXC. Normally the women's amateur or the C class has got more girls than WXC. But this year I think we've had 15 to 20 girls almost every race. And yeah, the competition and the battles have been like amazing. The lead has changed. I mean, although someone might lead all 4 laps going through the finish line, there's a lot of things people don't see out when we're actually racing, So the lead changes just 100 times throughout the race. And yeah, it's been pretty amazing.
I imagine. How long have you been in the off-road scene now?
I did a couple of races in 2016. I did like 3 GNCC. No, I did a couple more than 3 GNCC, maybe like 5 GNCC and like a couple full gases in 2016. So 2017 was my first full year racing off-road. So it's my 4th year.
4th year. Wow, that's pretty impressive. I mean, for a girl that came over to race motocross.
Yeah. We were just talking about that, and I honestly never had a plan of racing off-road. Like, there's like, definitely not. That's not for me. But look where I'm at now. Yeah, and where you are now. Let's talk a little bit about these first 3 rounds of racing. I mean, let's break them down. I'm sure, might as well bench race. There's not a whole lot going on, I guess, right now. But I tell you what, let's do that. And let's also talk. I got some questions from Facebook that people have written. We'll get to that. And there's a couple other things that we'll touch on as well about, we'll get a little more in depth, I think, of how you transcended from the moto world to the off-road world and all that when we return here in just a few moments on 10 Seconds.
So you ready for snowshoe this weekend, Brandon? Oh, yeah. Are you? Yeah. That's cool.
Stop!
Billy? It's supposed to be pretty nasty this weekend up on Snowshoe Mountain. Stop it, Billy! I'm pretty pumped. Put the brakes on! DP brakes. Good enough to stop my ATV, his ATV, and hell, it'll even stop a Billy.
Did you know you can save up to 25% and receive free shipping on great AMSOIL products with their preferred customer program? AMSOIL also has special pricing arrangements and free shipping for commercial accounts such as trucking companies, loggers, landscapers, and businesses like yours. Or if you have a business and would like to begin selling AMSOIL products, you could qualify to participate in the AMSOIL retail account program. You could become an independent AMSOIL dealer and build and grow your own profitable businesses. For more information, call John Coffey, your full-service AMSOIL dealer, at 877-694-4763 and leave him a message. John Coffey and AMSOIL, your first call for synthetics.
XC Parts Solutions is now available trackside at all GNCCs. Open Friday, noon till 6, Saturday, 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. XC Parts Solutions is a Moose Racing and Parts Unlimited dealer with a great inventory of Moose Racing products along with needed parts for bikes and quads. If you need raincoats, they got them. Umbrellas, they got them. Elephant ears for those mud races, they got them. Dry erase boards and markers, they have those too. Come by for a great deal on a great selection of Moose goggles and tear-offs used by a number of GNCC racers, located on Vendor Row next to the Moose Racing Transporter. XC Parts Solutions can take orders at the track and it can be shipped right to your house. Late need orders for in-stock products received before noon on Wednesdays can be picked up at the track. Email xcpartsolutions@gmail.com, on Instagram @xcparts, or give them a call at 931-854-1100 or 931-261-2004. And don't forget, all racers will receive rider support pricing from XC Parts Solutions.
And welcome back to 10 Seconds, the XC Off-Road Cast. Rodney Tomlin here, along with Mackenzie Tricker from the WXC and GNCC Racing. And, of course, we've been talking a little bit of quarantine there in the first little bit and just kind of getting to know what's going on. Now we're getting ready to talk a little bit about the actual racing here in 2020. We got a lot to cover. So this could end up being a little bit of a long episode. I'm okay with it. I hope that everybody else is as well. But Mackenzie, we were talking about breaking down these first 3 rounds of racing this year. I mean, coming into this one, I got kind of setting the stage. You know, you got Taylor Jones, who has been just an amazing champion over the last, I mean, just tough. You girls have really been putting a whooping on her sometimes, but she always seems to rise to the occasion when the occasion needs to be ridden to there in the last couple of years. This year, things are pretty exciting. I mean, everybody seems to be on a much more even keel mentally, physically. I think even equipment-wise, I think everybody's got a great support system. And with that being said, and you know, Rachel thrown in the mix, you got Rachel Archer, Rachel Goodish. That's just 5. You are just 5 girls that I can name off the top of my head just thinking about it. And that's saying a whole lot, because there used to be a time when there was one, Mandy Maston, and then, maybe every once in a while, Heidi Duchette would come in and she would be able to challenge Mandy. And then it just, then Maria came along, and it just kind of just snowballed into what we got, where we had a few women. Now we've got the WXC class, we got a women amateur class, we got like 3 or 4 different women's classes, plus there's a couple different girls classes that are racing as well. And like you mentioned, the numbers are phenomenal in every class. I mean, we're seeing great numbers in each class. So the women's racing is certainly on the rise, especially in this off-road racing market. And the racing off the scale, like you mentioned, we don't get to see everything that's been going on. But let's talk about Big Buck. I mean, Becca comes in, she's got 3 wins now, right?
Yeah.
But I know those 3 wins didn't come easy for her. I heard some of the podium stories. Now, I seen some of the racing on the track myself. I mean, crazy how tightly knit you girls are for that 2 hours of racing there in the morning, and how crazy the results end up. I mean, not necessarily end up, but how you guys change it out. So talk about how those races have been going. Let's talk South Carolina Big Buck first and foremost.
Yeah, well, honestly, that one was terrible for me. I got 6th. I don't know, we changed a couple of things on my bike, and it went terrible. Like, I don't know, I've had some pretty bad races, like at GNCC over times, and like a worst race would be like 4th for me. So, it does show that the competition has closed up a little bit, which I think is good. Like, normally there's just a couple of girls that are way out in front. So, for me, a really terrible race, I was way back in 6th. So then, we went back to the drawing board on Tuesday after Big Buck and changed everything that we thought might have worked better for me at Big Buck that didn't. And kind of just put my head down. We went and did a local race in between South Carolina and Florida. Because the full gas had got cancelled, and then we went race Florida, and I think Florida honestly was like a good race for me. I got 3rd for like the 4th year in a row. But honestly, I led like quite a lot of the race. I didn't get tired. Like I had a solid race for like from my past years in Florida. On paper it doesn't look good. I got 3rd again, but honestly it was like my best Florida I've had. I think I should have got 2nd there, but I crashed like the 9-mile marker on the last lap and Taylor passed me. So it was what it was, whatever, however you say that. But then a week later, went to Georgia and just tried to keep the momentum going, and I had a solid race there. I think I should have won there, but obviously I didn't, so it doesn't matter now. But, had a really good battle with Becca. All the way we passed back and forth for the lead quite a few times, and then on the last lap she led the whole last lap and obviously won, but I crashed like 3 times on the last lap and made it back to her. Then I would crash again, made it back to her, and then I crashed at like the 9 and lost sight of her. I ended up finishing 22 seconds behind her. But for me, just battling for the win like was great, especially starting at like rock bottom at Big Buck. I had some momentum going. It kind of sucks that we're not racing right now, but I think it was kind of good to end. I guess we're on like a little bit of break right now, but end the last race on a high note.
Right.
And it's better than it would have sucked if I had the result I had at Big Buck, and then now we go into this long break. Obviously that would have given me motivation. I'm still motivated. I didn't win, so I'm trying to be better, and we're trying to just hopefully can keep that ball rolling again when we start racing.
Yeah, momentum, that is a good thing to have on your side right now, and that is some positive notes to take away from this. So looking ahead, we don't know. We don't know when we'll get to start racing again right now. As of right now, I think if I understand right, we're canceled through September anyway. And anyway, with that, or not through September, I'm sorry, through April. Of September, they rescheduled some races into September. The reason I'm thinking September is, September is going to be busy. October, all those months we could get busy if we reschedule those races for the fall, which is what I hope they're able to do if we miss many more of these. But regardless of what happens, it's certainly a totally different time in history. And speaking of history, let's talk your history. I mentioned that I wanted to find out, how does a young lady that has her sights set on the American motocross dream, how does she, number one, get to the USA from Australia riding motocross? It's hard enough as the male in the sport, a guy in the sport, So I'm sure it's probably a lot of bridges to build and a lot of mountains to climb from a female standpoint.
Right. Well, it all kind of started off in 2009. We were at the Australian Junior Motocross Championships in Victoria in Australia, and Colleen Millsaps brought, I think, Carl Peters and Joey Savacci to that race, and they kind of dominated all the Australians. Like, I think they won every race they went in, and they kind of blasted like MTF, and my dad was kind of like, maybe if we want to go race the WMX. Like, at that point, WMX was kind of at an all-time high. We obviously watched Jessica Patterson, Ashley Fry. Like, we keep an eye on kind of the races from over there, and my dad talked to Colleen, and she had watched me ride a little bit, and it's like, well, why don't you kind of bring her to MTF and just see how America is, and then kind of go from there. So that was in like October of 2009. We went to MTF in December 2009 for like 3 weeks, and it was a pretty amazing compared to like what we had in Australia and the stuff that we had seen at that point. It was like my dad was so stoked with it that he's like, we should come back again in January. So he came with me in December, and then I went home for Christmas, and my mom flew back in January with me. We did a couple of winter AMs in Florida, and then I actually had a deal with Yamaha for a couple more years because I was like classed as like a junior racer in Australia. So I finished out my junior racing with Yamaha. So I stayed there till end of 2011. And then we came back for Mini O's at the end of 2011 in November. And it kind of went good. I won the Supercross, and then I think I crashed in the first moto of motocross, and I think Leah Cantrell might have beat me, but I won like the Olympiad and kind of met a lot of people and like made some connections. And then we came back in 2012 to race Loretta's. Did like 2 trips, did a couple of area qualifiers, went home, then came back, did the regionals and Loretta's, and then I did better than I expected. I almost won in 2012. I got second. Then 2013 we came back again for WMX, and that was the last year that WMX was with the Nationals. We did 3 races, and I ended up getting hurt at High Point. I was late. I should have won it would have been my first ever moto win. Like the last lap, I destroyed my knee, and I ended up getting third. Couldn't race a second moto. Kind of just like managed my knee for a couple of months. Went to Loretta's, won Loretta's. Flew on that Friday night at Loretta's and went to X Games in California. Like we went, I knew I was hurt, but we kind of went for the experience, hoping we could do it again, the next year. And then they stopped doing that. Yeah, so I think I ended up 4th that year in WMX, and then the following year it kind of went to amateur racing, and it went kind of downhill after that. I think they kind of kept a series going for 14, 15. Well, I think the last year was 17, but it was like at the amateur races, we sometimes only had like 5 or 6 girls on the line, so it wasn't very good at all. Like I was lucky enough to race, those 3 races in 13 when it was with the Nationals, and I seen like what it was and then what it went to, so it's kind of disheartening a little bit. And then in 2016, I did a couple off-road races, and they kind of went like couldn't have gone any better. I did 3 GNCCs and I won 2 of them, so I'm like, oh, this is easy, And then I got some support with KTM and kind of went from there, and it hasn't been as easy as I thought. Obviously, if it was as easy as I thought, I probably would have won every race. But that definitely hasn't. It's been a huge learning experience. But I've enjoyed it. It's like a different world compared to moto. And like you said, I came over here to race moto, and now I'm racing off-road. But right now, it's the only place that there's a successful women's racing series. Like there's nothing for like professional women in motocross right now. There's some pretty solid amateur girls that are coming up through the motocross ranks, but it's like, where do they go? So it's tough. You see Jordan Jarvis, like she is trying to make it in supercross and motocross, and she's having a real hard time. And Hannah Hodges tried to do the same thing, and it's like it's almost like a dead end for them. Which really sucks, And
I've spoken with both. I mean, both of them have been or are at least knowledgeable of GNCC, and I think they both at least experienced one or race.
I don't think either of them have done one. No, Jordan was meant to go to the 6-day last year, but then she ended up getting hurt.
Yeah.
So she actually did a full gas.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that. I was thinking they had some off-road experience there, but I know this is kind of a silly question, but the WMX was doing so well. What do you think was the death of the WMX? I mean, what caused that downward spiral? Because it was on the climb it was like the women and women athletes. They had this big thing going on, trying to build that all up and everything. It was just kind of like it just faded away. But I don't know how. I guess it blossomed in the off-road world. I don't want to say that off-road took the riders away, because that's not the case at all.
No, honestly, I don't 100% know. And like, there's so many people out there that try and like figure it out and try and like, how can we get it to come back? I really don't know. That's obviously, if I knew, I would try and do it. But I think honestly, one of the things that's been with women's racing is the depth of competition is not very good. And that's, like I said, I'm stoked that right now there's 5 or 6 girls that are pretty solid in the GNCC class. You know, it makes for better racing. 2011, 12, it was Jessica Patterson, Ashley Fry, like pretty much winning every race.
Yeah.
Tara Geiger was there, and then after that, I don't really know who was behind them. It was like a long ways. Like Jess or Ashley could crash and still win, you know, or Tara, you know. So it's like it's kind of boring. Like somewhat, it's got to be good racing, and
yeah, you're kind of one of the last big stars of the WMX. I think you and Jordan and shoot, I forget her name off the top of my head right now. But anyway,
Hannah Hodges.
Yeah, Hannah.
Yeah,
Hannah. Sorry about that, Hannah,
No.
if you're listening. But I mean, those girls, man. I mean, they were coming up. They were making such a name. You guys were all making such a name. You were set to be the ones to be in the place of JP, in the place of Ashley, in the place of Tara, and that, you know, you guys, I mean, by the way time goes, I mean, you know, way it works out, you girls should have been the elite of the sport, and you were, but I mean, it just, unfortunately, it's like it all got taken away. And it's funny how each of you have chosen your different paths. I mean, do you race off-road just because it's the only place there's competition, or do you find yourself really now finding a real home in the off-road racing world?
Well, I don't know. That's a tough question. I like off-road. I never had a plan to come and race it, that's for sure. But like right now, I'm like at the point I can race and make a living. So it's like, as people ask me like, what's like your next goal? I'm like, I don't really have too many more goals other than try and win some championships. Like I got to go to the 6th day. I've been I'm from Australia. I'm racing in another country. Like right now, I'm just trying to couple more years race, and I can make a living right now, and just take it as it goes, you know. So I don't know, it's kind of a tough question.
I imagine there's a lot of glitz and glamour. I mean, that's what attracted you to moto anyway, I guess, huh? The glitz and glamour of it all. Yeah,
like I don't know why I chose to ride motorbikes, but ever since I was little, like I had a PW, we call them Pee-wee 50s. And I rode around the backyard at my house and like begged my dad to take me to track, and it kind of just went from there. But I've always been pretty sporty. I was like really into soccer as well until they switched. I used to play on Saturdays, and then you get a certain age, it goes to Sundays, and at that point I was racing, so I had to choose one or the other. But I've always been like super sporty and pretty competitive. Like even when I played soccer, if like one of my teammates like messed up, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like I always wanted to win. So I don't know. And then like right now, you know, it's like, it's weird, we're not racing, and normally if I'm not racing, I'm in Australia, like it's the off season. So there's stuff to do. Like right now there's nothing really, you can't do anything, you can't go places. So it's kind of crazy. Like I've been thinking like, what happens if like I had a regular job, like, which at some point I know I'm going to have to, or I'd like to run my own business. But like, you know, some people like right now we don't have anything really to look forward to, you know, like that's a lot of people's regular lives. Like they work Monday to Friday and they just stay at home on the weekends, and I know they like probably catch up with friends and do stuff around the house, but it's like, that's just life to them. Like life to us is like, all right, we're going to Ohio this weekend, we're going to Pennsylvania next weekend, we're going to Tech, like we're all over the place, so we've got something to shoot for. So it's kind of weird right now. Like it's kind of putting me back to like everyday life. It's different, and I think it's good. I kind of appreciate like where I'm at and like what I do. And I think sometimes like when it's like after Big Buck, if you had to talk to me, I was like, I'm never racing GNCC again. Like I was so angry and so over it. And sometimes I'm like, you know, I'm done, I'm over it. But then like right now, you know, when we're not racing, I'm just like, I really do love it. But obviously, you know, you get frustrated and, you know, times get tough, or you're not winning or you're not on the podium and you're not making money and you just want to kind of throw it all in the bag and just like, I'll just go and get a job. But really, like right now, it's I think it's kind of good. Like I really am appreciating what I have and what I do, and yeah. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Now, when you mentioned, okay, if I do hang it up or whatever, where do you see yourself settling down? Are you gonna stay here in the U.S.? Are you going back home to Australia? I mean, I know you've kind of established a little bit of a life here.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, like my life is here. Everything I own is here, and my boyfriend's American. But honestly, I don't know. There's probably like an 80% chance I'll end up back in Australia.
You think he go with you?
Yeah, I'd say Dylan will probably go with me. I mean, we've talked about it, but obviously it's going to be a little bit different when it comes to time. We're going to, if that happens, we're going to do a lot of trips across the Pacific. A lot of long distance flights. Obviously his family's here, and I would love to be able to just like own a business and eventually and be able to be like, all right, we're going to America for 6 months, or we're going to and have a place to come here and a place to go there. But I don't think it'll be that easy. And then eventually, if I have kids and stuff, at some point they're gonna be school, and I'm like a believer of sending them to school, so they're definitely going. They're not homeschooling. I'm like I went to school, and I think I didn't appreciate it at the time, but obviously now I do. I see a lot of people. It's a different way in America. Like a lot of people is homeschooled. Like Australia, everyone goes to school. I don't know anyone that's homeschooled. So if we are in Australia, my kids are definitely going to be going to school. So I don't know. I think about it. It's getting more closer to the time where I'm going to have to kind of make a decision. But as far as like work and stuff, when I'm done racing, I don't know. Like, I don't really want to go work a 9-to-5 office job. I don't know. I could try and push to do some coaching and things like that, but it's obviously not a very dependable income. Like, it's just depends, not many people are going to pay you every week to do that for their kid, so I don't know. I'd like to own my own business, but with what, I don't know. I want to obviously have a business that makes tons of money, but that's kind of hard. But
you'll be cleaning gutters before you know it,
right? So I don't know, like probably when I first go home to start off with, or if I do go home, my dad owns a boat dealership, and like my stepdad owns a concrete company. So I think at first
put Dylan in concrete and you can work it.
Yeah, I think like for a while we'll both have a job, and then we'll kind of figure it out from there. But yeah, I don't know. People ask me that all the time, and I try and just blow the question off. Like, I don't know.
I get it. I mean, you don't want to think about it. I mean, I know this is not a thing to ask a lady like this, but how old are you, Mackenzie?
24, about to be 25 in June.
Well, you're very young. I mean, yeah. You've got a world and a lifetime ahead of you still, and you're talking like it's almost the end of the road. I mean, come on, now 25 is when you really start living and when things really start coming together for you. I mean, I don't know if you follow most of the racing and off-road, it does seem like around 23 to 25 when riders, especially by 26, 27, riders really start to mature, and that's whenever they figure the game out in some way, shape, or form, I guess. And maybe you're just getting ready to hit your peak in the off-road world.
I sure hope so. Yeah, a lot of the Tracy Pickens is, I think, in her 30s, and
she's in her 40s. Sweetie.
Oh, 40s. Well,
she's like 42 or 43 years old.
Wow. And then like Becca is like quite a couple of years older than myself and Taylor. And I think she's like pretty mature. And then there's got Ashley McCormick and a couple of other girls that even ride quads that
Ashley's
they're in their 30s. But like a couple of years ago, I was like, when I'm 25, that'll be my last year. Like, but now I'm at that point. I'm like, I can race a few more years, and while ever I'm competitive and can make some decent money, like I don't really want to quit. But if I start like really struggling to be on the podium and I'm not making that much money, that's probably when it's gonna become a time. So like that's what I'm saying. I said earlier, like I really hope that this coronavirus doesn't hurt the industry, because unfortunately we're like at the bottom of the list, women's racing. I think like this year is my best year with sponsors and stuff. So I think it's at an all-time high right now. But I'm kind of a little scared that if the economy does take a hit, that it may affect off-road and racing altogether. But I've been hearing some bits and pieces that some motor industry is like not hurting, because right now a lot of people have been getting out, they're not working and they're riding, and they're breaking parts or whatnot. So I'm like, well, maybe that's good. Like it's people are riding, so that's good. You know, they're putting money back into the industry if they have money right now. So
Right.
I was like, oh, maybe it's not a bad thing. So I don't know. It's
There's some good things that can come out of this. You know, I mean, as far as the coronavirus, I mean, it gives us a chance to reconnect with our families and find ourselves again. I mean, I'm a pretty busy person, and I have to admit, you know, through the winter, you know, you have your set routine and you're basically building towards the next season the whole time. Now that I don't have to build toward that season, I got a lot of extra time. So, you know, Monopoly and a game of cards, maybe some charades or something like that, you know, out in the yard working with, you know, the kid. Maybe start a garden. I might turn into Ken Hill, you know.
Yeah.
I am starting to buy a few extra bullets. And but yeah, as far as that all goes, I mean, but that's good. I mean, and I'm glad that, you know, you're looking at it like that. I mean, you physically, you feel fine. I mean, you probably feel better now than you probably ever have it, don't you? I mean,
yeah, no, I feel good. Just to have my knee is like pretty bad. It goes through stages. Like the first full gas at the start of the year, second test, I hurt it. I couldn't finish the weekend. So, and then it was bad for a couple of weeks. Now it's just like back to normal. I could probably go do a 5K run right now and it not be a problem. So it's like hit and miss. I have no ACL. But I need I've had 2 surgeries on it already. And I do need surgery. I need to have it fixed again, but it's like, I need a year. Like the past 2 surgeries that I had, I only took 3 months off at minimum. Like I was like trying to get back, you know? So that's kind of when I get done racing, that'll be like the first thing I do is get my knee fixed and try and get it recovered 100%. Because I think that's a lot of people with injuries. They try and race to get back, and it's probably not good. But other than that, I feel good. I mean, yeah, I feel good.
got a lot of races left in you then, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, let's see. Is there anything else that we wanted to touch on? I mean, is there anything that you want to talk about? I'm going to get to these questions from viewers here. There's just a handful of them, but
Yep.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that pops up. I'll ask. But anyway, Larry Mills from our good friends there at DP Brakes. They say good luck, best of luck, guys. Brian Cram. Is that the Serco guy? I think he works with Stu and those guys, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken on that, but he wants to know, does she feel as though the WXC should be row 3 or row 4 on a Sunday afternoon?
Definitely not. Well, one, because 2017, one of the races in Indiana, it was super muddy, and they combined the morning and the afternoon race together, and we were like row 5 or 6, and they had like race TV out there, and it was honestly kind of a shit show, like with how many, you know, it was so muddy, you couldn't really tell who was who, but we were kind of the bottom of the list, you know, they had XC1, XC2, 250A, I don't think they had XC3 then or not, I don't remember, but you know, we were just kind of another class in the mix. So that would be one of my things. Like right now, we have a pretty good spotlight in the morning race. You know, people come to watch the WXC. We get the introductions. We get podium. You know, like we would be the last people on the podium in the PM race, and by that time, everyone's packing up and leaving. So I think for that, the spotlight is great. Being in the morning race, yes, the lappers suck a little bit. But it's part of it, and I think there would still be lappers in the PM race, and it would be somewhat similar. So that, yeah, I think the morning race is good. I think it's really like helped WXC become like a spotlight, is being on the front row and what they're doing to try and get us out there, you know.
I agree. I totally agree, and that's a very good answer. I mean, and that's a great way to look at it. And I got to ask you, I mean, the intros. I mean, I do the intros, and I remember when we started those, I was like, how's this going to work? It's going to add more time. You know, there's a lot of elements to it. When we figured it out. We don't care because we want the spotlight, but how does it make you gals feel? It does make you feel, I mean, you are the premier women's riders in the world.
Yeah.
Does it feel like it whenever you get those introductions?
Yeah, no, it's good. I think, you know, before it was just like XC1, and I think the XC1, I guess, of quads, whatever their class is called, they were the only ones that got introduced. So now they're doing WXC, and then I think the 4x4s and the morning quads also. So I think it's good, you know, it gets our names out there. Obviously, we have sponsors that are paying us and stuff, so it helps, you know, promote them as well. So I think it's good.
It gives the crowd a chance to see who the stars really are. I mean, you know, it's pretty neat, you know. I don't know, you stand in that first turn sometimes and watch those starts. I mean, that crowd is so electric and so energetic, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, if someone has their first race, they can see like what bike we're riding, or they might know of us, but they don't know like what bike we're riding or what, you know. I think it's kind of good if they're out there watching, they can be like, oh yeah, that was Mackenzie, or that was Taylor, that was Becca, you know, that just went by. So I don't know, I think it's good. I think it's really good.
Yeah, it's a great introduction to the world. So good question and a very good answer, I believe. Rick Proctor wants to know, XC races require focus for an extremely long period of time. What is your strategy for staying in the zone the whole time? Especially coming from motocross. I'm sure it was a big transition for you.
Yeah, at first, like 2 hours was a very long time. I just obviously try and stay as focused as I can. I don't really have a strategy, like, I don't know. I just try and, when you are out there, the time goes by pretty quick, and, you know, you got 2-lap card, it's like, all right, you got 2 laps left, like, come on. Or last lap, you know, that, like, the last lap at Georgia, like, it's like a 30-minute lap time, and it felt like it was like 5 minutes, just because I was so focused on catching Becca, or, you know, the races that are harder, like Big Buck for me, when I was out there riding by myself and struggling, like, I felt like that was like 4 hours. Like, I wouldn't say I wasn't focused, but the thoughts that were going through my head, I was so angry and so frustrated. I think just like kind of focusing on yourself and trying to, you know, ride the track as best you can. I think that's kind of how you can make the time go fast. Or focus on catching the person ahead of you, or not letting them catch you if you're winning. So, I don't know. That's like kind of a tough question.
No, I think you answered it perfectly. Fellow WXC racer on the 4-wheel side of things and former champion herself, Alicia McCormick, wants to know, what do you miss most from home, and what do you enjoy most about the United States?
Obviously, I miss my family. I miss some of the food. The food in Australia is way better. My favorite, people know me good, they know that I love chicken schnitzels, which my buddy Nick Rupert's learned how to cook them, so he started making those a little bit more often for me, trying to make me feel like I'm at home. But
what's a chicken schnitzel?
It's like a lightly breaded chicken breast. It's not fried, like you could go to like KFC or Bojangles or something and get like fried chicken. It's not like that. It's more like a thin chicken breast, like lightly battered, and you can bake it or fry it, whatever. It still tastes good. Other than that, family and some of the food. I really like Australia. Actually, they have a lot of like privately owned businesses, like restaurants. Not many chains. I like that, or a pub. You know, you can go and just get like kind of more like a home cooked meal. Lots of cafes. I'm like a big coffee person, so I like to, you know, go in the morning, have a coffee somewhere, and like you could have a breakfast at a nice cafe or something. It's not very big over here.
Upstate New York. That's kind of. I noticed that too. You know, I around here, I mean, it's all about, you know, fast food drive-throughs.
Yep.
You know, get in, get out quick as you can. It's neat to me those smaller communities in like upstate New York and different places like that still have that local family vibe atmosphere that I think you're referring to from Australia. Not saying go to New York.
Right. Especially not now.
At least not now. But yeah, that's interesting. I like that. That right there is a big draw for me to want to go over to Australia just to try some of the cuisine. Speaking of cuisine, the Vegemite sandwich. Do you like those? Do you eat those? What are those?
I love Vegemite. I don't eat it very often. I try not to eat much bread. But yes, I love Vegemite. But I don't know any American that likes it, to be honest. If you're gonna have it, you gotta have Australian make it for you. So you gotta put the right amount of butter. Like you can't just put Vegemite on toast. I don't know. I'm sure you can, but
it kind of like grits. You gotta know how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, do you like grits?
I like grits. Yeah.
I like grits, but I
Yeah.
gotta put the right amount of butter and the right amount of sugar. I like my grits sweet.
Yeah, I don't know if I've had sweet ones, but I've had cheesy grits. They're pretty
Really?
good.
I haven't had the cheese in it. Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I'm from America. I don't know. I like, obviously I'm here to race, so it's kind of like right now. This is like I said before. It's weird. Like I'm not racing, so I like America for the racing point of view. And obviously, I don't know what the population of Australia is or America, but America's got way more people and it's way bigger. So like they say, everything's bigger in America. So you go to any type of event, it's bigger and yeah, I like from America's side of view. I like the racing. I haven't been to many Australian races in a long time. Obviously, been over here, but I go home and I'm just like, wow, like it. So that's the one thing I like about America is the racing point of view, or any type of event in sports. Like been to some NASCAR and things like that. And obviously, we have the V8 supercars in Australia, and like NASCAR is a million times bigger than that. So, yeah.
Jessica Patterson, Ray.
Yeah.
Wants to know, congratulations, JP. By the way, your son, I guess he's like a year and a half old now, but
Yeah.
he's getting to be a big boy. She wants to know, does she still like to ride moto at all?
Yeah, that's kind of like probably a bit of a smart ass question. I'm sure Jess has put on there, but I've actually rode motocross twice in like the past 10 days, and both at her track, TR Speedway. Other than that, I haven't rode any moto in like a long time, which I'm starting to get a little bit more of a want to ride it again. Kind of just being like so focused on off road, and like when I raced, I wasn't a huge jumper, and like if I didn't have to do the jump, I wouldn't. Like if I was at a track, I would obviously jump everything that I needed to win. But if I was at a practice track and I'm like, I don't need to jump that. Like, so obviously now I'm like, if there's something big, I'm like, I race off road. Like why put myself at that risk when I'm just not a confident jumper. 2011, it was my fault, but I didn't put oil in my bike, and I jumped a double on the first lap, and the rest is kind of history. So that kind of has haunted me, will forever haunt me. And I'm just like, if I don't need to do it, I don't. But yes, I don't ride moto much anymore, but I'm going to try to, especially now Jess is riding. Might be able to have a little battle.
There you go. So she's back at it now? She's
back at it, riding a little bit. Obviously, she's looking after Knox like full time, and then running their racetrack. She doesn't ride much. I don't think I've rode with her since after she's had Knox, but she does ride every now and then. Oh. So we've been trying to ride together, trying to tee up something, but it hasn't worked out yet. But hopefully over the next couple of weeks.
I'm sure it will. You got plenty of time to make it happen right now.
Absolutely.
Tim and Brandy Carson, who I don't know if you know Tim and Brandy, probably two of the biggest hardcore GNCC loving fans. I mean, typical, though they're mud fleas, even though they get muddy sometimes too.
Right.
They are true to the core GNCC race fans, and want to thank them for their question. They want to know, will she stay in the industry after her racing career is over? And where does she think the industry is going right now and in the future?
Obviously I'd like to stay in the industry. I think for me to stay in the industry, there's definitely more of an opportunity here in the US. So I don't know, if like I was to say I'm done racing tomorrow and a job arises the day after, I would obviously try and take it. And if the right opportunity came, like, and it was the right money or whatever, I would like hang up racing for that job at this point. Like or maybe a couple of years from now, if something came along for the right opportunity, absolutely. I'd love to stay in the industry. But if I go home, industry's a lot smaller. There's a lot less opportunity. So I don't know, but that's the plan. As far as the industry, like I said earlier, I have high hopes that it stays at how it is right now. I think it's at a pretty good high. This coronavirus, I don't know. We don't know what tomorrow brings for that, for anybody. So I have high hopes that it stays like it is, but yeah, fingers crossed.
Definitely good to keep our fingers crossed. Another question here from George Murphy. He's our buddy from up on Snowshoe Mountain.
Okay.
He's been helping out a lot behind the scenes here with DJ Judd and some of the guys coming and doing some stuff. But George wants to know, how is not being able to race affecting you physically and mentally? Is it much of a challenge, I guess, is what he's wondering. What's it doing? How is it affecting you?
Physically, I think, it could have came out a little, if this was planned, it would have been nicer to be more mid-year when, where our bodies are starting to be run down from, mid-year summer break time, when it's getting hot and you're getting tired from doing so much racing now. But obviously it was nobody's plan. So physically, I've just been trying to just stay, riding a little bit and just doing I've actually been doing a lot more off the bike training than I would on a regular week, just from obviously we're not racing on the weekend, so if I'm tired on the weekend it doesn't matter. And mentally, I'm bored for sure, and right now it's well, we don't even know what we're shooting for. You see the pro motocross, they have kind of a goal of June 13th, I think, to maybe go racing, and hopefully somewhere around then we might be racing, hopefully earlier, but if not, it's 2 months from now, so it's kind of I don't know, we're just trying to stay busy, honestly. And I think this is a tough time for a lot of people. They're locked inside, or they don't know what's going on, and I think it is a pretty crucial time of trying to stay positive, for sure.
For sure. It's tough. People don't realize, you get I think people are realizing, most people are probably smart enough to figure it out. You get into a routine and you got something going, it's tough to break that routine. My body, every year, I get lazy during the winter, maybe around Christmas, this, that, and the other, around January, end of January, starting into February, all of a sudden my body literally will not sleep. It wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning and it's ready to go. It's ready, so that's, I start getting prepared that way myself personally. So, this is really tripping me up, me personally, I can't, so I guess trying to keep the physical training and the mental stuff, just thinking about it is probably what you just got to keep it on the tip of your thoughts all the time, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. We all know for right now, we're definitely not racing in April, so we have at least a month until we could potentially be racing. Will we be racing in May? Probably not, or towards the end of May. So we still got a while, but you could also burn yourself out in those 6 to 8 weeks. Then when it comes racing time, you're burned out. So I'm just kind of having some big weeks. This week, I'm not having too big of a week. Last week I did 8 days straight, rode 5 days, which just I haven't been riding much, but it was more, we had 2 days of trail riding. It was more fun.
Right.
And then when I did ride, I just did a couple of motos. It wasn't no big days or nothing. But yeah, I think right now it's like I was saying about listening to some podcasts and stuff. I think it's good to have a little bit of recovery right now if you can. Because I think we're probably not going to have many off weekends for the rest of the year, which for me, an off weekend's like a rest. I race all 3 off-road series on the East Coast, so we're going all the time. We're from one state one weekend, a 10, 12-hour drive the next weekend to somewhere else. So I'm kind of it's not vacation by any means. It's not. People I think looking taking it like it is vacation, but I think it's a good time to rest and recover. And if you do have an injury,
yeah, this has got to be benefiting anyone that does have injury right now. This has got to be a huge benefit for them. That couldn't come at a better time, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
It's a healing time for some and a reset point for others.
Yeah.
And you bring up a good point. I mean, people could burn themselves out. I mean, we do have a lot of time on our hands right now, and you might burn yourself out. So don't do that. That's probably a warning. I mean, you know probably as well as anybody. I mean, it's easy to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with like, we were only 3 GNCCs in. We did 1 National Enduro and 1 full gas. We meant to do 2, but the other one got cancelled. So we were like 6-7 weeks into the series. And that's just coming off like the grind season for most people. Like December and January is like the hardest months of the year for a lot of people. So, you know, if they're going back into like full grind mode again, you know, like their bodies barely were like recovered from that, or they were trying to get in that, you know, a steady grind, you know.
I think a maintain mode would probably be the best approach right now for a lot of people, unless they're behind the curve already or something along those lines.
Yeah. And then obviously, I mean, if you do get the virus or some other type of sickness in this time, it's going to beat you down even more. So just trying to stay healthy right now is like the biggest priority I think should be for everybody.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I guess that's it. It's all I can think of. We've taken up about an hour of everyone's time.
Right. Didn't you have another question somebody messaged you about?
Somebody was messaging me, but that was something totally different.
All right.
I'm looking around. Do you know? Is there anything that you want to pass along? I mean, is there something on your mind? Any words of wisdom from Mackenzie Tricker or anything like that?
No, I think right now just try and like be overprotective of like staying healthy. I mean, like I think a lot of people are kind of like, oh, this virus is nothing, and I know that the media like blows it up, but I think like kind of overkill on like washing your hands and hand sanitizing and what you touch and things like that, and just try and, I mean, all of us that race, like we might have a less chance of like getting sick. We're in physically good shape and whatnot, but people around us, or, you know, we might have it and not know, or, you know, spread it to somebody else that is not in good shape and it could affect them. So just, that's about it right now. And then just stay positive. Like I've seen some stuff on Facebook, people like writing negative about, you know, staying inside and that. Like I think the virus is one thing, and I think mental health for a lot of people is another, you know, like just try and like, I don't know, stay positive as best you can. Like that's all I got really to say. I don't know. Have fun. Like use the downtime to your benefit, I guess. I don't know.
That cracked me up. People, mental health. That's a good point. It's not.
I
good.
really have seen some people on Facebook. They're like, I've been having thoughts that I've never had before. I'm just like, that's not good. Like, get outside, like go on a run, like or something. Like I don't know. Just don't stay inside. Like that. I mean, that drives me nuts. I'm like got ADHD. Like I've got to be on the go. Like same thing. We've just been. I don't know. We've cleaned the shop 100 times at home. Like. I'm just constantly cleaning the house. Like something to do. I can't sit. If you ask Dylan, I can't barely sit and watch a movie. Like I got to be doing something, you know. So this is tough on me, and I'm sure a bunch of other races, you know, same thing. You know, we're always on the go, and it's like crazy slowing down. But I mean, we got it right now for the. You know, you look at New York, and I like I said, I know the news may make it sound worse than maybe what it is, maybe not. I don't know, but. Kind of listen to what they're saying. I mean, obviously it's no joke. You see how many people have died. So just try and listen. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's just like the flu. Well, yes and no, but right now they don't have a cure for it, and there's a lot of people dying, more than what the flu has killed in like a short amount of time. Obviously the flu kills a lot of people, but I don't know, they're not freaking out over nothing, you know. That's obviously a problem. So just try and follow what they're saying, and maybe we can get back racing sooner. That's all I'm worried about, is like, obviously I don't want anybody to get sick and die, like that's terrible, but you know, I think if everyone follows along, business and life and racing and everything can get back sooner. I think if people are just like are hard-headed and don't listen to it and go about like how they would normally, you know, I think it's going to be December and we might not still be racing, or businesses still can't go out to eat, whatever, you know, don't do anything fun. So I think if everyone does what they're told for a couple of weeks, I mean, I think we should be back to normal life sooner. But we'll see, I guess. So, yeah.
All right. One last question, and I'm going to go. I mean, and you can say thanks to whoever you want to say thanks to, but my question is, when it's all over, you hang boots up, you go on to whatever it is, whether it's in the industry, whether it's to go back home to Australia and work with your dad and your family, or if it's to make a life in South Carolina or wherever it is, whatever it is, how do you want people to remember Mackenzie Tricker?
I don't know. Hopefully they remember that was good riding a dirt bike. That's a really tough question. I don't know. I don't know. I like helping people, so hopefully they can remember that. Like I obviously help some Ohio youngins, like coaching and stuff like that. I don't know. That's a really tough one. But
it is.
Hopefully they can remember that as good riding a dirt bike, and yeah, I don't know.
Good person.
Good person? That's a really tough question. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it gives you something to think about. Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gives you, because I mean, hey, you got to remember who you are. I don't think you realize who you are.
Yeah.
And what impact that you do bring into racing, women's racing, whether it be off-road or motocross. You are a light. You are a example, and you are in a position where a lot of people want to be, and you can do a lot of things. So.
Absolutely.
I think you got a lot of positives. So,
Yeah.
Mackenzie, thank you for spending time with us. I know it's a lot longer than 10 seconds, but
Oh, it's all good.
we appreciate you.
Yep.
Anybody you want to say thanks to?
There's a lot of people that help me. Obviously, thanks to my boyfriend Dylan for working hours on my bike. KTM, Enduro Engineering, Fly Racing, X Brand, Alpine Star, Motor X, Motion Pro, Asterix, Travelers Rest Speedway, AK Ready Mix, Cruiser Peak Marketing, MAPMX, and anybody else I forgot. Thanks very much.
That's Mackenzie Tricker. This is 10 Seconds.